Hey guys, Chris here. Today's video we're going to be talking a little bit about some baits and techniques you can utilize to catch some more Door County and Sturgeon based smallmouth bass. So these Door County smallmouth, they get a lot of pressure, they see a lot of baits, but there's a few staples that kind of work day in and day out. For some reason they always get bites, and there's a good starting point of baits you can utilize yourself out there to catch some fish. So my number one tried and true is going to be an 1/8 ounce ball head or 3/16, depending on how deep you're fishing, and a 2.5 to 3 inch swim bait. So my personal choice here, this is an 1/8 ounce Hayabusa jig head with a 1/0 hook, and I've got a 2.8 inch Kitech Fat Swing Impact on the back. It's just a bite getter. You can wind it around all day long and usually get a couple bites with this, or a lot of bites. It's a good bait. Setup wise, I'm throwing that on the 7.2 Alpha Angler spy bait rod. Money. You've heard me talk about this rod on the channel a lot. I've got two of them. I absolutely adore them. They're my favorite rods in the boat, hands down. On here, I've got a Stratic CI4 Plus 2500. I wish I could still get my hands on more of these reels because they're the bomb. I've got some 10-pound Sunline X Plasma on here to an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. A lot of people will say you need to go as light as possible with your leader line. I would say to run as heavy as you can get away with, just because of all the zebra mussels up here. That doesn't mean go up to 15, 17-pound leader, because you're probably going to miss some fish and not get as many bites. But run as heavy as you think you can get away with without sacrificing bites yet, whether that be 8 or a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. That's 90% of the time what I'm throwing for leader line is an 8 or a 10-pound. Another super common bait, and yeah, you should have seen this one coming, especially if you're a Wisconsinite. You throw a tube jig. Everyone loves a tube jig. This one here is a Angler's Choice ammunition tube. This color is MG Special. Awesome color. I've got a 3/16 ounce insert in there. I try to keep it light, but not too light, because I want to maintain contact with the bottom even when it's windy. And this spring has been unbelievably windy. Setup for that, another rod I've talked about on the channel. Alpha Angler wrench. It's a 7-foot medium, but it fishes a little bit more like a medium heavy, or maybe an in between of that medium heavy. It's got a ton of power. Um, Drives that hook home on a tube. Even if you make a real long bomb cast, you're sticking that fish. Stratic CI4 Plus 3000 on here. This was the first Stratic I ever bought in 2017 when this model released, and I haven't done about a lick of maintenance on here, and it just keeps ripping. Awesome reels. I wish they still made these things, like I said. Line on here, this is 16-pound Sunline X Plasma. I'm a little bit heavier on here because I also will use this rod to fish around docks and whatnot for largemouth, so just a little bit beefed up. Leader, 10-pound fluorocarbon on this rod. I run a little bit heavier on my tubes just because I'm running that heavier jig head and I'm digging that bait into the bottom a bit more than I would be that little swim bait. So I want to make sure I'm not going to lose fish or break fish off just because I got a little nick in my line. Another bait that is definitely not my forte. I'll only catch a handful of fish on this every year, but a lot of people smash fish on this. It's going to be an old jerk bait. This one right here is a custom painted Vision 110 from Beavers Custom Baits. My man Derek makes some of the absolute most gorgeous airbrushed custom baits around. I'll put a link down to his Instagram page, but look at that. It's a shame that I have these because I can't catch a fish on a jerk bait, and these things freaking crush, dude, if they're put in the right hands. Just not these hands. These ones don't catch fish on a jerk bait, but I'm bringing it up in the video because a jerk bait's an awesome option, especially for covering water, and I know a lot of anglers are super successful with it. The last bait I'm going to talk about is another one I don't fish a ton, but again, it has its moments, especially when it gets slick, calm, and sunny out there. And those fish kind of suspend up in the water column a little bit. Is the Marabou Jig. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know this is a Great Lakes smallmouth killer. 16th ounce, 3/32 ounce, 1/8 ounce at absolute heaviest. I usually go for 3/32. That's my personal favorite size. I can cast it yet, but I'm not dredging the bottom with it, and I can kind of just float this bait along. It's not an easy bait to fish, even though you're casting and winding it, because when you think you're reeling it slow enough, slow yourself down even more. It's super tedious. It's slow. it's a bait you throw when you locate yourself a pot of fish and just kind of want to pick off the ones that don't want to bite something else. Um, People might disagree with me. Some people might use that hair jig to cover a bunch of water. Me personally, I'm going to opt for that little Kitech like I talked about earlier if I'm just burning and covering water. But the little black Marabou jig's definitely a bite getter. Setup wise on that, a lot of people opt for the longest rod you possibly can get away with, 7/6, 8 footer. I also throw it on the Alpha Angler Spybait rod. It whips it around just fine, and it alleviates the need for me to buy myself a niche kind of rod that I'm going to use for one technique that I'm frankly not a massive fan of. But I've caught some terrific fish on the Marabou jig in the past, and it's another bait that's notorious for crushing a bunch of big smallmouth up in Door County waters. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what your favorite Great Lakes smallmouth bait is, or some topics you want to see in the future here. The pre-spawn bites kind of coming to a wrap in the areas I like to fish of Door County. So I'll probably be messing around with some largemouth here in the next couple weeks, or maybe some post spawners. I don't really touch the fish when they're on beds up on the bay, kind of let them do their thing. So yeah, we'll see what the future has in store, but we're going to crank out some absolutely awesome videos this summer and hopefully dive into a lot of electronics based videos and educational based videos. So hopefully I can teach you guys a thing or two. Again, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you later.